Guys, Joe Gilpin here with Corey Stockton. We are here with the first edition of a new series where we take a look back. We take a look back at some of the greatest tournament runs, some of the greatest fights, some of the greatest fighters of all time. And there's no better place to start that with than with Marcelo Garcia, right? My personal favorite of all time. You know, everybody loves him, one of the greatest to ever do it. Corey, when you think about Marcelo Garcia, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Yeah, Marcelo Garcia, widely respected as one of, if not the greatest of all time, not just because of his kind of trend-setting style, but also because of the way that he was able to do the things he was able to do as such a lightweight. You know, he ran through the absolute and medaled at the absolute so many times at ADCC, if not the best multi-gi and no-gi grappler ever, at least in the conversation as one of the best no-gi grapplers of all time.
Absolutely, and we wanted to take a look back and start to really appreciate what he was about and introduce him to maybe some fans who haven't had a chance to follow along with the Marcelo tournament run. To me, there's no better place to look back than his last tournament run. That's the 2011 ADCC World Championships. This is a really interesting tournament. Now, coming in, we didn't know that this was going to be the last time that we saw Marcelo, right? He had lost in 2009 in the finals to Popovich, but since then he had gotten back on a heater. He had won IBJJF Worlds. He's come into 2009 with a mission, right? To come in to be able to secure ADCC gold again. At the same time, he has extra stress. He's starting his own academy and he's moving into the coaching world so much. And so this was really a time with a lot of flux for Marcelo, and definitely not a sure thing that he was going to be able to get this done.
No, and it ended up being a historic run for him, right? He knew going in that if he won this tournament, he'd be one of the most successful ADCC competitors of all time. This ended up being his last title, his fourth title, put him at the top with just a few other names who had won 4. Nobody at that point had ever won 5.
Absolutely incredible. Let's go ahead, let's get started, right? Let's get started with his first fight. He is taking on Asian Trials winner David Hart. David Hart, very tough Australian grappler, but he is facing Marcelo Garcia, right? So let's take a look at how that fight turns out. Marcelo with the signature finish, the Marcelo Teen, his variation of the guillotine where you bring the elbow up and over. You also hear it called a high elbow guillotine these days. It's the Marcelo team, guys, I hate to tell you. But let's talk a little bit about how Marcelo has the Marcelo team. He has so many signature techniques, right?
Yeah, and maybe the Marcelo team is the one he's most known for, right? He hits so many of those guillotines, maybe not most notably, but certainly most visually appealing in this David Hart match. But there are so many things that Marcelo brought to the game. He's really a trendsetter of the modern style of jiu-jitsu. I mean, you talk about the arm drags from butterfly guard, the single leg X guard, the X guard, the particular way he played back control. There's so many things that Marcelo did in his ADCC runs, but especially in the 2011 run, that we still see as kind of common practice today.
I think it's not hyperbole to say that the modern no-gi meta style, however you want to describe it, is largely Marcelo Garcia style with heel hooks, right? That's how influential he was as an athlete, is that by and large you hear about so many, top guys give credit to him and say they're just trying to copy what he was up to. And it's a style that not just stood the test of time, but changed the course of what we were doing. And you talk about the north-south choke, so popular for him. You talk about the arm drag, amazing, back trapping, trapping hands from the back. Marcelo was so ahead of his time, still a little ahead of maybe this time. And that's really, really crazy to think about.
Yeah, he really kind of, I don't know if he probably didn't know he was doing this, but so many of the things he did, maybe because he was a 77 kilogram going up against, at points in his career, guys like Rico Rodriguez, that people looked at that and said, that's something special. We need to be able to take that. There's something he's doing technically that's outside of physicality or strategy. There's something special about Marcelo Garcia, and we need to make it work for us. And the thing about his style was, it was so universally, there was nothing physically special about it, right? It was just the technical elements, the this, then that, the sequential back control system, or the arm drag from butterfly, the way he used butterfly to get a single leg X. Those are things that anybody can do. Marcelo was the best at them, but people have been able to take those techniques because they're universal.
Right, and I think that also helps his style transition so well from gi to no gi and back and forth, right? Because you're talking about a guy who had 5 world titles in the gi, and then you're talking about a guy who had eventually, after this tournament, 4 gold medals in ADCC, obviously, and he did the exact same stuff in both styles. And I think we're actually going to see that best exemplified in his next match. He's taking on Victor Estima, that's the brother of Braulio, of course. Victor, by the way, way better Estima lock. Braulio had 1 Estima lock finish in his entire career. Victor, much more the Estima lock guy. And they had fought in the quarterfinals, I think, might have been the semifinals of the IBJJF Worlds that very same year. Marcelo had been able to defeat him 3-0. They're going to rematch here. Let's go ahead and take a look. Nuts. Remember the guillotine we just talked about? Comes up again. Gets the tap over Victor Estima. So that's day 1 of ADCC done for Marcelo Garcia. He's on the mat for, 3-4 minutes if, and is coming away with 2 submissions. Here's the thing, his next match, he has a little bit of a rivalry coming, right? He's got Kron Gracie, son of Hickson, eventual UFC athlete, Kron Gracie. They're gonna meet in the semifinals. Now they fought before, they fought at ADCC 2009 in the semifinals, and it was Marcelo getting the submission win there, getting the Marcelo team, big shock. But now Kron is 2 years better and incredibly focused on this. This was one of the most highly anticipated matches of the entire tournament, is watching these two, because Kron's really just coming into himself and hitting his stride as a black belt. Marcelo has been there, he's the established guy, he's the guy that's trying to get over on this, and that has all the makings for a great little rivalry match.
Yeah, this is a storyline we see even at ADCCs now, right? The established veteran, the multiple-time champion veteran up against the new guy that everybody knows has the ability to be an ADCC World Champion. And that kind of energy, you can just feel in the arena, you can feel watching at home that there's something about this matchup that is going to be career-defining for one or for both of them. And I think this match certainly did that for Marcelo. You could absolutely say that too for Kron.
I agree. I think that this is definitely the rivalry that defined Kron Gracie, right? Kron for so many years really was a very big star in jiu-jitsu and in grappling, and he needed that validation of that higher level championship. He ended up achieving that at ADCC later on. But let's first go ahead and take a look at how this match turns out.
Action on the bottom.
Ô Marcelo!
Vai, Marcelo! Bateu o jogo. Vai, Zé, vamos passar aí. Serve de novo. De novo, não esperar não. Vamos abraçar aí. Só sempre, vai. Falta dois companheiros. Vamos, André.
Deixa mais fechar. Deixa mais fechar.
É a posição da
Vai, não.
André, tá ganhando, ó. Já não tem. Falta 1 e 10. Vamos, continua atacando ele, André. Continua atacando ele. Continua atacando.
big win, big moment for Marcelo, puts himself back into the final, is able to turn away the new guard of Kron Gracie, who would go on to win in 2013, take home the gold medal. Talked about he needed that, and he eventually did get it, right? And so, any last thoughts before we get out on the Marcelo versus Kron rivalry and what that kind of meant at the time? It was a huge deal at the time.
Yeah, one thing that kind of jumped out watching that match is Marcelo, one of the best submission rates in ADCC history. And you watch him against somebody like Kron Gracie, who's gonna take him into deep waters, but to be able to pull out that strategy to score at the end there, and to score and stay on top and keep the score up, just shows how capable Marcelo was of kind of calling an audible, right? You can't submit this guy, gonna try and try again, but also make sure you come out with the W. And that's something that you see a lot of guys now who will throw it all at the wall, don't know how to always turn it around. The best do, right? The best grapplers in the world, as Marcelo was, can take this is not gonna be an easy match for me, but I'm going to win this way versus that way.
Absolutely, and that sets up a pretty epic final for the 2011 gold medal at minus 77 kilograms. We don't know at the time, but this is going to be Marcelo Garcia's final match. He is into the finals against a fellow former ADCC champion, Leo Vieira, very tough Leo Vieira. Corey, for the people who are not very familiar with Leo, can you kind of give them an idea about who this person is?
Yeah, Leo Vieira was the king of the little guys at ADCC in their early years, right? 2003, ADCC 66 kilogram gold medal champion. 2005, 66 ADCC champion. Leo now the head of the Checkmat Association. He is building champions, he's creating champions, he knows how to be a champion, and this champ versus champ matchup was a great test for Marcelo's final appearance in not just ADCC, but in any competition ever.
It's crazy that, yeah, both these guys, not just great champions, right? They both won 2003, 2005. They were both gold medalists in those years. They went on to coach such great champions, right? Marcelo has produced ADCC champions. Leo, through Checkmat, has produced ADCC champions. Bouchecha, ever hear of him? And they've both left such an incredible mark on the sport. I also think that it's important to note before this that they were very familiar with each other, right? They have a history, not a bad history, but Marcelo did used to teach at Leo's school, right? These are guys who are very familiar, they have a respect for each other, and they're gonna meet in the biggest no-gi match of the year, the ADCC Finals in 2011. Again, this is Marcelo's final match. Let's sit back, let's appreciate one of the greats.
trazer o joelho, vem atrás. Boa, toquinha, cotovelo. Boa. Ó o cotovelo, Léo.
Pezinho na coxa, pezinho na coxa.
Atenção, Léo. Dá esse braço aí. Boa, Marcelo, aí. 3 fora, Léo. Tenta puxar teu joelho pro peito dele, Léo. O corpo tá esticado no chão, hein? Isso. Desequilibra aí, Léo.
Marcelo Garcia, minus 77, champ 2011, and gets it done with a triangle. We talked about some of the signature things that Marcelo would pull out, some of those signature techniques. The triangle was not one of them. In fact, at his black belt career, his entire black belt career, he hit one triangle. And it was that match, his last match, where he goes shoulder crunch, which was a big Marcelo signature, to the mount, ends up getting the triangle, gets the tap. Absolutely unbelievable, shocking at the time that he was able to do that. But one more small chapter in the Marcelo Garcia story, right? That he's able to add there at the end. We never saw him compete again. That was his last match. Got very devoted to coaching, got very devoted to his athletes, was not able to commit the time and energy necessary to prepare to be Marcelo Garcia, right? Marcelo's not the type of guy to show up half prepared to a big tournament. And I think that him going out on top, it's right, it fits, right? Marcelo Garcia going out on top.
And Marcelo, after kind of leaving his competitive career behind, was still kind of this legend, this figure for people to drop in. You would hear about world champions going and dropping into Marcelo Garcia Academy in New York City and just not being able to do anything to the guy. And I'm not talking about, like good jiu-jitsu athletes. I'm talking about some of the greatest. Some of the best jiu-jitsu athletes in the world could not hang with Marcelo for 10 years after he retired. Yeah. So Marcelo, something about his innovative approach, right? His innovative techniques, something about the way he used his build and his style and his speed. But the precision and the execution of Marcelo just could not be beaten for another 10 years after he walked off the mat.
It's really unbelievable. I think Marcelo, when you talk about his legacy, right, and you talk about how he's remembered, he is remembered, I think, primarily for those absolute runs, right, and how inspirational that was and how much that speaks to the heart of jiu-jitsu, of being able to use technique to overcome anything, right? And you couldn't ask for a better person to be a representative of the sport. Always the nicest, always very generous, always very humble as a martial artist, while still, being very well known and getting himself out there. I think that, we all aspire to be a little bit more like Marcelo, right? Even in our day-to-day lives, or at least we should. And I think that those absolute runs really, for me, that's the thing that, when I think about Marcelo, it's the first thing on the top of my mind, is those incredible runs. Facing and beating bigger world champions. Unbelievable.
2021, Marcelo Garcia rightfully named into the IBJJF Hall of Fame. 2022, rightfully named into the ADCC Hall of Fame. One of the best of all time, and everybody in the sport knows it. I mean, you go back to people watching Jiu-Jitsu 10, 15 years ago knew Marcelo is the greatest. And people watching Jiu-Jitsu now still remember Marcelo as one of the greatest ever. You know, watching through some of these greats, especially at ADCC, but really any event, whether it's Marcelo or Leo or Rafa Mendes or Roger Gracie, some of these great athletes, these monumental athletes, watching through that old footage can really help to enlighten us on what they gave to Jiu-Jitsu. And a lot of the techniques, I think maybe the best of their techniques are still the best modern techniques. So important to go back and watch that kind of stuff and really kind of study what's still here. Because that is, to me, the true Jiu-Jitsu is the stuff that transcends time, that we've been doing since 2005, since 1999, since 1949, that still works.
I absolutely agree, and hopefully when we get further into this series, we're gonna get a lot more into that. Guys, we are going to continue this, looking back at old tournaments, old collections of matches that fit together for whatever reason, looking back at an athlete at an event. If there's anyone or anything that you guys want us to cover, especially, let us know, and we will be back very, very soon. Marcelo Garcia, 2011, the man.